Now, I am just out of bed, so I probably won't be very loud, and I'll probably fix it in editing. But over the course of the Christmas time, which I did take a bit of a break for, there was a new Doctor Who episode, and I said I would do the Christmas special. And I don't want to do the Christmas special, but we're gonna do it anyway. I wrote, let's see, 1, 2, 3 pages of what happened in the show, so I can go back over and kind of take it slow, basically. So if you don't want spoilers, this is not the video for you. Just fair warning. Now, I will probably try to go through this pretty quickly, because I wasn't sure how I wanted to do this video, if I wanted to just go through the whole episode and whatnot, but I've determined I'm just going to hit some highlight parts here, and I still want the people, if you even feel like it, to go watch it yourself and make your own opinion. But I will tell you my opinion in no uncertain terms, and my opinion says that you should not watch it. Anyway, just starting off, you've got Ruby, very, very pretty lady. She's getting interviewed about how she was found at a church, she was named after the church she was found at, yada yada, like just kind of filling that character in, basically. And at that point, this early on is when we get introduced to like the villain in it, and it's a little goblin, which just, I don't know, are goblins sci-fi? I've never considered them sci-fi, but maybe they are, and maybe I'm just weird, but who knows. And the goblin is doing nothing but small inconveniences. He knocks over a light. He throws an extension cord, I think, at the interview lady's head. Hits her in the back of the head with it. And then it jumps to Ruby in a club. And then they leave that club. I'm going to be honest with you, I stopped paying attention at a lot of this beginning part because it was so just kind of slow, which, you know, you're introducing new characters, kind of needs to be a little bit, but it just kind of seemed, some of it seemed a little pointless. But I'm going to jump to where Ruby finally meets the Doctor, and he is swinging. He is going crazy in a club, wearing a kilt, skirt, whatever, in a wife beater, the white tank top, and he is dancing. And this is where we're going to piss off a lot of people, but I don't want the Doctor to dance for real. There was that one gif and that one thing that I think I showed around where Matt Smith was doing that weird dance. That's one thing. That's funny. That's weird. It's awkward because, you know, he's supposed to be an awkward character. He's an alien from outer space. He is dancing so well, it looks like he's done it forever. It's weird. Because the Doctor's supposed to be charismatic. He's supposed to be enigmatic. He's not supposed to be dancing in a club. Like, I found it weird when Capaldi was playing a guitar, let alone now we've got the Doctor, which in every time I wrote the Doctor in my script, I put quotes around it, because Ncuti Gatwa never felt like the Doctor through this whole thing. It just felt like I was watching a show from somewhere. Like, it didn't feel like Doctor Who at all. You have the intro sequence, which, you know, always gets you hyped up for Doctor Who, whether it was Jodie Whittaker's or Ncuti Gatwa's or whoever's. It gets you hyped up because it's like, oh my gosh, Doctor Who. And then it just fell off big time. It wasn't fun. And I'm going to state this very, very clearly. I don't care what your sexuality is. I don't care what you do in your spare time. I do not care. I don't care. I've never cared. I will never care. It comes to the point where, like, if you're going to do a show and you have a character who is gay, you write that character gay, you add him into the show, but you don't make their sexuality the whole part of the character. That's called bad writing. When certain traits of them become that person. Because one person can be, say, a kleptomaniac, but also be very, very kind and very generous as well. But he likes, to nick stuff. And then over the course of a TV show, he learns to stop taking stuff and start giving more. That's called character progression. There's no character progression when it comes to sexualities. You can't start gay and then end gayer. I guess you could, but that's not how. Unless you're writing a show specifically based on that. It's not. Doctor Who isn't that show to do that. So he's dancing in this club, the quote-unquote doctor, and it just feels like I'm watching Magic Mike. Like, in that instant, I felt uncomfortable because it's like, he's really going at it, and I feel like I'm watching a completely different movie. But I digress. The goblins are now trying to kill Ruby. They're trying to kill Ruby just in general. And I should specify, the reason Ruby went on that interview was because they're trying to find her mom and her father because she was left at a church. Skipping a good bit, we get back to Ruby's house where we meet her mom, her grandmother. Ruby was adopted, taken in by these two, by the lady who works in the church, I suppose. And, they get another kid to be adopted because the mother gets a phone call. It's like, hey, they've got another kid for you, a little baby on Christmas Eve. And this is like exciting for them because it's been a while since they've had one on Christmas Eve, yada, yada, yada. CPS brings over the kid, and Ruby has just come home from the shop, and now her mom's like, I want to go out and get stuff from the shop. To get stuff for Lulu, was the name of the kid, which the doctor kept referencing. Is like, oh, that's a great name. I wish I was called Lulu. And I'm just like, why do you want to be called Lulu? Like, I mean, I understand wanting to have a different name, but like at a certain point, I understood wanting to have a different name other than the doctor, because at the time it stood for war, and then like through the progression, it changed and meant like like a great warrior. Like it was is a good name. But at that point, Ruby gets a call from the interviewer, who tells her that they couldn't find her mom or dad, no trace whatsoever. Which, don't even know what that means, but the interviewer dies, or at least so we think, on the phone, because the goblins cut down the Christmas tree, I guess, in public, in front of God and everyone, and kill her with a star on top of the tree, is what we know. And then on top of that, the goblins are at Ruby's house, and they take the baby because they want to eat the baby. And I was very confused on how the goblins operated, because I'm just gonna stop and talk about that for a second. I just didn't understand it. I couldn't tell if coincidences pushed them away or coincidences brought them to a place. I'm not sure. But there were so many coincidences because, like, Ruby's mom got a new baby on Christmas Eve. Ruby was a baby on Christmas Eve. So that's a coincidence that I guess brought them to want to eat the baby. I don't know. And then, I won't spoil that part of it, at least yet. I'll get to it. But just know that I'm confused on the goblins at this point in time, because it makes no sense. It makes no sense. At that point, the goblins take the baby. Ruby climbs to the roof to chase after them because they're on the roof. They put the baby in a basket, brings it up to the pirate ship. There's a ladder. And that's where Ruby jumps on the ladder and the doctor's running by, where we get the part from the trailer. The doctor then jumps on the ladder and starts explaining to Ruby about it, like, just like, why would you do this? This is such a dumb idea, like, yada, yada, yada. And then Ruby's like, they took the baby, and then the doctor hands her these gloves, which are reverse polarity gloves. I don't know. They made everything lighter, so they took the weight of your body, so that way you could hold on to stuff with ease, which is an interesting invention. It's been a while since, I guess, the doctor invented anything, which is interesting concept. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, because he's, got different types of gadgets and stuff, and that's an interesting gadget to, add. It definitely, I could see how it will come to the aid of, like, easy plot points, which, like, it did in this episode. But the one thing that stuck with me while they were talking on the ladder, before they got up into the ladder, was that the doctor said mavity. Not gravity. Mavity. And I'm just like, are you seriously gonna stick with this? Like, let's double down on everything. The guy that discovered gravity, yeah, he was definitely black. In probably entirely white Europe at the time. But he was definitely black. And on top of that, we're going to show that the black guy can't discover stuff as well as a white guy because he called it mavity instead of gravity, which is what it's actually called. Which is ridiculous. Either way, they go up the ladder, and they're on the ship. They both pull into the ship on the ladder, and all the goblins are there staring at them. So the goblins grab them, obviously, tie them up, and they're on this tiny little pirate ship. The doctor realizes that the ropes in the boat are basically like they're electrical wires. So he's figuring out how to undo the wires to open the door. He hits the right one, opens the door. They go out there, and then he finds the rope that opens the ventilation shaft on a pirate ship. Didn't know they had those. So they're crawling through the ventilation shafts. I'm skipping a lot of this because a lot of it they were just kind of like chit-chatting a little bit. But they do that, and then somehow a wire falls or something. They fall through onto the conveyor belt that was bringing the baby to the gigantic Goblin King. And I will say the CGI was rough in some spots. I noticed that it looked bad, but in other spots it was like, okay, that's not terrible. Like, it's not bad. Like, so it was a hit or miss on some of the CGI for the goblins especially. But this is another part that really irritates me a lot is how would you think the doctor distracts a villain? He talks. He asks questions. He just uses his intellect and like worms them into a conversation. This doctor just sang. He sang the whole time. He sang. And even got Ruby in to sing. And I'm just like, I mean, yeah, I guess that would distract anyone if someone just started to sing. If a burglar broke into your house and all of a sudden he just started breaking down into Hamilton, you'd be probably pretty confused as well. But he sang. He didn't. There was no speech. There was no talk. There was nothing. He didn't even say this planet's protected or anything like that. He sang. Literally, like what the Ninth Doctor said about the Daleks. He sang a song and the Daleks ran away. He sang a song and the goblins ran away. Because they practically did. The next time we see them is basically almost at the end of the episode for the most part. Because they get out of the ship. And they get the baby back down into the house, yada, yada, yada. And then they just talk about random whatever for a little bit. Probably going over some plot points and explaining how the goblins work, but it just didn't make any sense to me. So then Ruby's mom comes back. They've got the baby back, obviously. And then just a bunch of coincidences happened. Just a ton of coincidences. And the doctor thinks that it broke them and sent them back to their time, but it didn't. It sent them back in time. They broke the timeline. They went back in time to steal Ruby instead of stealing Lulu. So the doctor then has to go back in time to stop them from stealing Ruby. And he does that with the help of those gloves. By pulling the ship down by the ladder. And then when that didn't work, he jumped off the balcony and pulled it down and speared the boat onto the steeple of the church. And that was it. And the the goblins disintegrated. And then the doctor put Ruby back in front of the door of the church. The clergyman come out later after the doctor had left. The doctor saw Ruby's mom walking away. Didn't go and speak to her or anything like that. He just got back in the TARDIS and went back to modern time. At that point, Ruby's like figuring out everything that happened. Like everything's like setting in. She's freaking out. Yada, yada, yada. And then the doctor's back. When he left to go back in time, there was this old woman, Mrs. Flood. She saw the TARDIS disappear. Dropped her groceries. Funny part of the whatever. He comes back. He's in front of her house, basically. She's sitting there watching for him, which a little odd that she's sitting there watching for him. But he walks out of the TARDIS, looks at the Ruby's home, and is like, maybe I'm the problem, something like that. Because Miss Flood asked him something. He's like, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm the coincidence or whatever. And then he's like, just stopping by, and then he leaves. He goes back in the TARDIS. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. He's gonna leave, and hopefully, leave Ruby here until the series starts, and then maybe they connect back up. Now, Ruby runs out the door, goes up to the TARDIS, or runs out, asks Mrs. Flood, "Where's this man?" And she nods at the TARDIS, and she looks at it. She opens the door, closes it, walks around like everyone else has done, and then goes back in, and I think they just leave at that point. And at that point, the camera flips back to Miss Flood, and she breaks fourth wall and speaks to the camera, which you typically don't do. But this, it never felt like an episode of Doctor Who. Never did. And people agree with me on that. So the few people that will comment and be like, it was not bad, just know that you're in the minority on this one. Yeah, there's a 5-month gap now from the Christmas special until the next series, and based on the ratings, just so far of this special, people are not bothered. People aren't bothered at all. And because of that, I'm bringing up some stuff right here for me to read. Per the Radio Times, the episode had an overnight rating of 4.73 million, which, of course, they try to play it up as much as they can, which marks a slight uptick compared to the third of the 60th anniversary specials, the Giggle, which scored a 4.62 million overnight viewers and a 6.85 million consolidated over the few days. But that's not good. I'm fairly certain that's the lowest Christmas special ever, probably. It wasn't good. It was not good at all. And from the special 3 to the Christmas special, it only went up. It went up 100,000 views, because special 3 was 4.6, and Christmas one was 4.7 million. And that doesn't really show. It shows that 100,000 more people were interested. That doesn't mean people are coming back. Now you've got 6 months to continually do little to no fanfare, because they don't, I didn't even know the Christmas special was out. I'm not gonna lie to you, I totally forgot, because they don't put it to any fanfare. It's just put it out, let it go, and it's not good. The special one got 5.08 million, obviously, because David Tennant was back, but that's still not a lot, and it's still not near, I think, some of the end of Capaldi seasons. Over the 7 days, it got 7.3, and on TV only, and plus the 4 screen, it got 7.6. Special 2 dropped 4.8, Special 3 4.6, and now the Christmas special 4.7. And now with a 6-month gap, I don't think people are coming back for this. It really doesn't seem like it. This was once a family show, and now they're not really giving much of a reason for the family to be there. They're just making stuff based off of the current thing. It's let's make the Doctor gay. That'll be fun. It won't bring anybody new to the show. The only thing it's going to bring are people who subscribe to that ideology. And I don't care if someone's gay in a TV show, but don't make the main character. But I just don't understand making the main character that, because it's ridiculous. You're going to lose so many people because these people invest in a character that doesn't subscribe to an ideology, because then you just divide, which is insane to do in the first place. Never, when you're writing something, never subscribe to an ideology, because you only split. You never bring together. If you want to bring people together, you make a property that's completely neutral, but just has a good story, because everyone can get behind a good story. But with this one, it was so bad. It wasn't. All right, let's be objective about it. Let's look at it this way. The episode itself, if you took Doctor Who off of it altogether, not a bad episode. It wasn't. It was just middle of the road. Sorry, I keep hitting the bloody table with my bracelet. There's nothing special about it. Nothing at all. It was a middle of the road episode. Like, the villain wasn't even scary. I didn't think for a second that this villain wasn't going to even overcome the Doctor in a slight bit of the way. And I understand it's Doctor Who, you kind of expect the Doctor to win most of the time, but there have been episodes where, like, they'll carry over, or, like, some great part of damage has been done. The goblins didn't even kill anyone in this episode because the Doctor wound up going back in time, saving the interview lady, and she never died. So those goblins were the most ineffective people because they didn't kill anyone. They didn't even succeed in part of a goal. Couldn't even eat a baby. But, like, it was such a middle of the road episode that, like, I gave myself a day to, like, just think about it. Think on it and see how you feel after a day. It's like, I feel nothing. I feel nothing about this at all. There's nothing here. It's just a big nothing burger. Like, it's just nothing. Like, I'm struggling to, like, continue on because it's like, I could go into the whole depth of this whole episode. Like I said, 3 pages. But it means nothing. It means nothing. 5 or 6 months is a long time to wait for the new series. So, I don't even know if this channel will be still going in that time. Hopefully it will, if people keep watching. But if it isn't, well, then certainly it wasn't Doctor Who that killed me. I killed myself. But, but, like, if this channel is still going by then, I'll consider doing a new series, reviewing it. But until that time, no. And no.